I'm going to start the learning sponsors. Year of learning, Martin Lippman and family in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bat Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Svi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliel Ben Yosef Kohen, those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malkabat, Meshulmi Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim V'Chava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer V'Chana, Tesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Alevi V'Tzipora, Yisra Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen V'Chana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Brana in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel, friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch Leib HaKohen, friends and family of Sigi Bessler, Shalom Shraga Ben Dov, friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer Ben Yisrael Aharon. A month of learning by B. Kaiser in memory of her sister, Rivka Bat Avram Michael Halevi, Michael and Judith Paretsky, in memory of his brother Avraham Ben Gershom, Haran and Mel Haller in memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bat Yehuda Leib. A week of learning by Barbara Stern in memory of her father, David Matcha Ben Zev Yeta, Manny and Carol Miller, in memory of his father, Tzvi Hirsch Ben Menachem Mendel. Today being the 27th of the month, we have a day of learning by Paul and Carol Schwartz, okay, in memory of his father, Yaakov Yitzchak Ben Mordechai Halevi. And Hashem is heaven Aliyah, Crank Roshia, Belti Shir Shematzliah,
Okay. Bosa, yesterday, after we had this incredible lengthy set of derivations of how he knew every din, and the animals, got down to the birds because we were able to understand all the psukim. So once in the end, we were comparing in order to make a call of prod, etc. We were comparing the language in the first commandments and the language in the second commandments. So once we're on the subject, we want to deal a little bit with a discrepancy between the language of the first commandments and the language of the second commandments. That's the way we learned it. Shal Rabbi Chanina, I'm sorry, so we are, where is it? 2 lines to the bottom, thank you very much. 2 lines to the bottom on the dollar number page. Shal Rabbi Chanina, then I'll go as Rabbi Chia Abba, yes, in this question. How come the first commandments, when it came to the law, to the mitzvah of honoring one's parents, lo nemer behem tov, it doesn't say tov, it doesn't say lama and yitav lecha, like it says in the second one. So, but in the second one, it says what? It says nemar behem tov. It says lama and yitav lecha. No, it's in the first Hebrews it talks about length of days, but it doesn't talk about and be good for you. And in the second commandments, when it talks about honoring your parents, it talks about the length of days, and it's going to be good for you. So how come it didn't say it's good for you? Will be good for you in the first commandments. Amar lo, so Bechia said, I'm going to read the whole thing, then I'm going to explain it. Amar lo, so Bechia said to him, he said, 1 second. He said, before you ask me, how come it says good in the second ones and not in the first one? Ask me if it even says good there. I don't know. Who says it says even good? I don't know. He says, Im lav. Well, ask me if it says good or Im lav, or if it doesn't say good. I don't know if it says it or not. He says, Kalech Eitzel Rabbi Tamcha bar Chaniloi. So go to Rabbi Tamcha bar Chaniloi, Shoya Rogel Eitzel Yeshua ben Levi, who was accustomed to learn by Yeshua ben Levi, Shoya Baki Bagad, who was an expert in Agadic explanation. Also Lagabe, so he went there, he went to Rabbi Tamcha bar Chaniloi. Amar lady said to him, so he said to him, Mimenu, he says, you know what, from Yeshua ben Levi lo shamati, I didn't hear it from him. I usually heard everything, but I didn't hear this. But this is what this rabbi said to me. Or some people say, but what he said to us like this. He said, you know why? He said, because those words that'll be good for you, those are talking about what? Life in this world, as we'll see. And Behold, says, since the first commandments were going to be broken, okay, that's why it wasn't written. So the Gemara says, what kind of answer was that? So what? So they're going to be broken. Why can't you write down a bracha? Rabbi Ashi, Chas v'Sholem Paskatov Yisrael, because when they were broken, so it's going to those words are going to leave the world. The letters fly up, so to speak. And the good living this world, the bracha in this world is going to what is going to be. They're going to go away. Now, the whole story is obviously very hard to understand. Why? Because since when? Here, yesterday you saw our Morav. They know. They knew every word of the Torah. That every vav and a base with a colon and with a base with a. Who does it? It's very shocking. Okay, you want to say it? He didn't know. Okay, but it's hard. Everybody has a hard time. So the various commentaries explain. The Gaon has a very simple explanation, which is very beautiful. And it's like this. Like I just told you, simply, if you're going to learn that they're two different things, so that it should be good for you is talking about this world, okay? And Arichas Yomi is talking about eternal life in the world to come. So then the question he's asking him is simply what? He says, how come the bracha for this world was left out of the first luchos and only put in the second? Now, when he said back to him, I don't know, it's that we're not doesn't know. The problem is like this. Here we have an opinion. If you look in Gemara Kedushin, when we look, and the Gemara, it's explicit in the Gemara Kedushin. Rabbi Yaakov learns that both phrases, that the length of days and goodness are both talking about the world to come. Good life in the world to come and long life in the world to come. It's not talking about this world. So he's saying, I don't know. You're asking me why was the bracha of this world left out? I don't know if the bracha of this world was ever in there at all. Rabbi Yaakov says it's not there. It's not. There was no bracha for this world in the commandment to the parents. Both the man yerichon, the length of days, and leman yitav, it'd be good. We're both talking about the world to come. I don't know. And here's what. Now I want to show you why it makes sense this way. Because you know what did he send it to? He sent it to somebody who was an expert in what? How come he didn't send somebody who's an expert in the scriptures? He sent it to somebody who's an expert in what? In the Agada, in the midrashic explanations. If he doesn't know what's written in the text, go to an expert in the text. You know, I'm just it's a very strong for me. I didn't see somebody say it, but it seems to be very strong. He sent him to an expert in Agadic interpretation. Well, send him to an expert in the Chumash. Send him to an expert in the text, and go ask the experts in the text. You understand? Or Bucky. So the answer is one. He says, I don't know. But you asked me why the bracha of this world was mentioned. I don't know the bracha of this world was mentioned there. You know, you're like Rabbi Yaakov. There was no bracha for this world. So he came back. So when they say, he said, Echanam, it's the bracha of this world. It's the bracha of this world. And that's the whole point. And because the Gra also asks another question. How come he's worried? If you're worried that it's going to break and you're going to lose the bracha, no. So the bracha for goodness, you're not willing to lose. The bracha for length of days, you're willing to lose. How can we only bother them? In the end, they said, "Oh, had you written goodness, the luchos would have written, would have gone out of this world." No, and how about the bracha for length of days or whatever? However you learn, why is it okay with you? So the answer is that what happened was the luchos broke, the letters flew up to the sky. Life in this world, God forbid, would have come to the goodness in this world. Life in the bracha in this world would come to an end. No, the world to come, no problem. Let the letters fly up to the sky. Let it be up in the sky. What's for the bracha of the next world could be up in the sky. There's no problem. You understand? But the bracha of this world can't leave this world. That's the gong. That's how the gong. It's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. It's in the Bir Agadas. There's a Bir Agadas of the Gaon on Baba Kama. We have also the brachos. Yeah. So we have Baba Kama.
I bring again a very simple shot. My focus was that what they didn't know was what was actually written on the tablet.
That's another story, right? That's in Yaakov you find it, right? They argue about what was really there. That's another. But so with all proper respect, a little, they're working very hard. You understand? Why did I choose the Gong? It's simple because it's simpler. First of all, it's simpler, and it explains beautifully. I told you why did he send them to a Balagoda? Okay, that would work also. What you said also would also work for that. But that's it. Anyway, I thought was a nice piece. Kids in Emirates. Everybody loves to.
On the tablet, when we have tablets, when you picture the tablets, every commandment is only a few words.
Right.
In the Torah, it's a few sentences.
Yeah.
So what was on the tablets?
The sentences.
The whole sentence.
Yeah.
It wasn't a time where it was a cube.
Yeah, it was a cube actually. And by the way, the whole. We're going to get there. We're We're both like yours truly almost once had a nervous breakdown. I'll tell you the truth. Two places, the Gemara wants to explain to us how they fit, where the luchos were, the secretariat, with the ara, the old ones and the new ones, the broken pieces. Yours truly was up all night and almost had a nervous breakdown all night long in my mind. I was taking the pieces, putting them into the ara and taking them out. I stacked them this way, I stacked them that way. Every way I stacked them didn't work out. by 4 o'clock in the morning, I start to have mamish a panic, whatever. I was having a nervous breakdown because I could not put the pieces correctly into the Iron Kodesh correctly. Now, a time I did that a different way, which I didn't have a nervous breakdown. We're ready in a modern we're not only wealthy, thank God, financially in these times, but also wealthy in Torah. So we have today. You have the 15 books that will picture for you. You know, the garments of the Kohen Gadol and the garment and the Kalim and the Mishkan. Years ago, not that long ago, you had two books. If you remember the two famous books, there were two little books, line drawings, and that's what you had. And finally, so you go. How long do you go till you figure this stuff out? So finally, one Shabbos afternoon, I said, enough is enough. I sat down, mamish, and I took the book and I sat down and constructed the Mishkan piece by piece. I took the book and my mind, I killed myself. I could see it. I could see the what you call the hooks like stars sparkling in the sky. I saw everything. I saw the silver. I saw everything, and I mamish walked into the Mishkan. There, I fainted, but from joy. Yes, that was a different one. That one, because I took me all. I sat all afternoon. So I put it together. That would work. But the other, we're going to come to it. The other one, I mamish had. I didn't, but I almost had a nervous breakdown because I couldn't get the luchas in right. Anyway, another time. Okay, also Lagabe. Okay. So we did it. I'm Rabbi Shimon Levi. Let's say a little more. I wrote a test b'chalom. We have a little ago. If a person sees a test in a dream, you see the letter test. Siman Yafalo. It's a good sign. Okay, Gemara says my time, but what's the reason? Ilay maybe the sheep tov. You say because test means tov, which is good. Okay, he says, but test doesn't always mean good things. Amo, what do you mean? We have a pasuk that says I'm going to sweep them with the broom of destruction. That's a very negative about bubble. So test is not always a good thing. So why is test a good thing? The Gemara says no. Chad test coming in. Remember, the broom has two tests. That two tests is no good. A single test, that's what he said is good. That's tov. Gemara says, so what? He says, even a single test, we have a negative. Why? And Eicha was talking about the sins of Klal Yisrael, talking about Tumasa b'Shulah. What that her tumah can be seen at the and the hem of her garments, at the edge of her garment, her sins are visible. So you see, the test is what? A single test is also negative. Gemara says no. He says, here's what we're saying. Test base, Karina. What we meant to say, what you see in a dream that's good for you is you see a test in a base, that signifies what? That signifies tov, that signifies good. Amos in 1 second. So what? Even test in a base, he says, we have also negative. Tov abor sharal. We see what? That the gates of the base of English sunk into the ground. You understand? That's also negative in a test in a base. Ella, so why is test good in your dream? He says, hold the possible about kosev tov chilam. Here's why, because the first test in the Torah, the first test is good. The first time you ever see tests in the Torah, it's good. Why? Because from the word Bereshis in the beginning of the Chumash till Hashem saw the light is good, Loksiv test. There's no test in the Torah at all. Till what? Until it writes, and those tests is what? Kitov. So therefore, the first test that ever appears is Tov. And that's why, even though you're right, there's a test that's not good. But since the first test that ever appeared is for good, a test alone, you see in the dream, it is good. Remember, and you should know, probably, I'm sure you know this, there are quite a number of rabbis of a whole system of drushes. Every first in the Torah, they got a drusha for. Whatever, everything, the first time when anything shows up, that's the grand central for them, to go to town. Rambam Shimon Levi said, "Roa hesped b'chalomom." Now the way we're learning, if a person sees the word hesped, he says, "Hey samach pei daled." He sees the word hesped in a dream. He says, "What is the sign?" It means that really what he should have died and he should have died and been eulogized. Chasu alav b'nei hashamayim v'du. What happened? They had mercy for him on the heavens and they saved him. But Hanibili, like we said, that's not when he sees a eulogy in his dream. It's when he sees the word hesped in a dream. He sees it written out. Okay, now back to the ranch. We said that what we said all these rules that we saw in the Torah that undomesticated animals and birds have the same rule as the domesticated animals and all the various halachos that we mentioned yesterday. Reish Lakish said, Khan, he says, in this Mishnah where we saw, that birds have the same rules as animals, you see also what? So then by the prohibition of mixed species, birds have the same prohibition, okay? And therefore what? Of interbreeding mixed species, the prohibition, just like animals, is also by birds. Shana Rebbe, so here Rebbe taught, tiny gold, tavas, pisione, a chicken, a peacock, and a pisione, some type of quail, Rashi says. Okay, if you interbreed them, he wants you to know that they are called. It's the prohibition of interbreeding. So I said, Pshita, obviously they're different species. Obviously, if you interbreed them, it's forbidden. Amar Chaviva. No, he says no. It's not obvious. Why? Mishum the Rabba de Adadi. Now this is machlok. Everybody argues. What does it mean that they grow together? But some people learn like this. It means that I think it's a shita. They learn like this, that they'll take each other's eggs. These birds will raise the other bird's eggs. They'll take that egg and they'll incubate the egg. They'll grow the egg. So since they're willing to accept each other's eggs, there's a strong reason to say what they must be really the same species. Why would they accept each other's egg? So I think that they're one species and it's not interbreeding. Nevertheless, even though they'll handle each other's eggs, that they're still different species, just like the airlines. In the old days, they don't do it anymore. The old days, the airlines used to take each other's tickets. It was a courtesy. I don't know if you remember. In the old days, you could take a ticket from one airline, you take it to the other airline. Remember this? It was really like that. You take it. There was a courtesy. They would give you courtesy. They would take the.
It's definitely because the security purpose.
Yeah, it all changed now. But they used to, you could bring your ticket from one airline to another. They would accept it. If you had a ticket, there was a courtesy. Now they were different businesses. They weren't partners together. But still, so they accepted each other's eggs. It was a courtesy. Anyway, Amar Shmuel says, Avaz Abar, the wild, what is it, goose? The wild goose, okay, Avaz, the goose, Avaz Abar, and the wild goose, that's also called interbreeding, it's forbidden. In my time, he says, what's the reason? Why are they two things? He says, why should they be considered two? They look like one species. If you think this one's a different species, because this one has a long beak, the high zutakoy, and this one has a short beak, he says, according to that, he says, Gamla Parsa, the Gamla Kaya, we have the Persian camel and the Arabic camel, okay, the high Alin koi, one has a thick neck, the high cutting koi, one has a thin neck, Hachinami, okay, the heavy kilam, they say breeding. Apparently, everybody knew that those camels were not considered. Apparently, the tradition was that the Persian camel and the Arabic camel were not interbreeding. So why should you say long beak and short beak should make two species of bird? Well, Abai says no way. He says it's a much more blatant difference. This one the testicles are external, are outside, but this one the testicles are inside. You can't see it from outside. So there's a blatant difference in the species. Papa Amari says a different reason. This one of the female, so that was by the males. By the females, the female of this one, it only will produce one egg at a time. It only makes an egg, it only gestates an egg after it gave birth to an egg. He said, the other one, in one gestation, it'll have several eggs. It doesn't have to give, it doesn't have to lay an egg to have another egg. It'll have a couple eggs and then lay them. What about here that what about two animals, okay, in the sea, two of the sea creatures? If you interbreed them, what's the word? Okay, he's whipped. That's also in the prohibition. My timer. What's the reason? Oh yeah, but not little like Crete, like remember, there's a lot of things in the sea. There's a lot of things in the sea. Okay. He says, why? How do we learn it? We learned it because we learned it by Shabbos. It doesn't work because Shabbos there's no issue to work your fish. Anyway, because it says mineu in both of those. It says we say what? In other words, it's a word bridge. Because when it came to the creatures in the sea, the vibration said mineu, each one, according to their various species, and also when it came to the creatures of the land, it also said mineu. So the same way that you have the prohibition of the creatures of the land, so you have the prohibition of the creatures of the sea. Rachma is a very interesting question. Amanik be'iza b'shibuta. Now, imagine you're pulling a wagon along the beach, but you have one rope in front of it, you have an animal in front of it, you have a goat in front of it, and you have it connected to a big sea creature in the sea. And so the sea creature is swimming and pulling it from the sea, and the goat is swimming and pulling it from the shore. Okay, Mao, what's the rule? Mir meaning came with the Izalo Nachas Bayam. Do I say, look, since goats don't it doesn't walk in the sea, and any kind of a sea creature, no kind of fish is going to go on the land. So that's nothing because why? Oh, Dilma, what? But it doesn't make a difference. The facts are that they're pulling. Here, do they have to be a team or not a team? They'll never be a team. They'll never be a team. Usually, when you put two things to plow, like you're binding them together, They're a team. You made a team out. Nobody. You got an oxen team. You can make a camel and a goat team. You can make it. I saw pictures, by the way, in the Middle East, the Far East. The guy do it. I saw pictures. They'll put a camel and another animal. They put animals. I saw it. I saw pictures of different species pulling the plow. But when is that? So maybe when is that? When you combine it, they like a team of oxen, do a team of. If you could have them walk together, that's a team. But this where it's never going to happen. So is it the pragmatic fact that two things are pulling the plow together? So it doesn't make a difference. One's in the sea, one's not. Or is it that you made a combine like Sharva Hamor, like you make a team of oxen, you made a team of an ox and a donkey, then they got to be together. So therefore, if they can't be together, it's not the prohibition. There's a matkif law. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I've seen pictures like that. Exactly. He's got an ox and a donkey there. Why not? You use what you got. You use what you got. Whatever you got. You use Maskif law Arvinum. So yes, Akashi, he says, if you want to tell me what, that you could really think that that's called mixed species plowing, then I got a question. You're going to come out with a very strange law. You know, the law of kilayim, of mixed planting, is only in Eretz Yisrael. I mean, the rice is only in Eretz Yisrael. Only in Eretz Yisrael, not outside of Eretz Yisrael. He says, according to you, if you're going to say that you can have a fish and a goat, one in the sea and one on the land, and it's going to be called doing the prohibition. He says, what's going to happen? Let's say a guy put together a wheat berry and a barley kernel in his hand. And he planted the wheat in Eretz Yisrael, and right 1 foot away, he planted the barley outside of Israel. Okay, here too he's going to be chayiv. Okay, the way you're doing. They said, get out of here. He said, no comparison. Of course, they're not chayiv. It's Eretz Yisrael, nothing else. But there's no comparison. Hasam, when you planted a wheat in Eretz Yisrael and a barley outside of Eretz Yisrael, 1 inch away, whatever it is, 1 second away. There it's clear as a bell. The land is a place of obligation, Eretz Yisrael, and outside of Eretz Yisrael, there's no obligation. There's no prohibition of mixed species.
Wow. So you praise Eretz Yisrael not only for the things that you can do, the positive, but for the negative things you can't do.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It is beautiful. Very nice. Very beautiful. So therefore, but over here he says it does make a difference whether you're on the land or the sea. Okay, it does make a difference. You're still chayiv. Okay, whether you're pulling a boat on the sea or whether you're pulling a wagon on the land, you're still prohibited. There's no difference. We didn't find any difference in the thing, and therefore, for sure, we could think that the prohibition applies. Okay, now we're going to hunker down and look at the laws of Shane and Reva. Okay, they didn't answer. We didn't answer. We left with it. We left with a problem. We didn't answer. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Are they going to give an answer?
Huh?
Are they going to give an answer?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We don't know. Not everything works that way. Okay. We're not going to learn about the laws of animal going to another field and eating. So there's one thing that I want to bring up that's important about it. You remember that often we've compared, remember, by an ox, you can have an unwarned ox and a warned ox. A warned ox is a warned ox, and an unwarned ox is unwarned. But we said by Shane and Regal, by definition, from the minute that they exist, they are muad, they're forewarned, right? Because it's normal. It's not normal for an ox to gore, but it's normal for any animal to go eat things that it sees, and it's normal for an animal to trample things when it's walking. It doesn't have to be an ornery animal to do that kind of damage. It's not an animal that had an abnormal behavior. It's completely normal, so it's automatically warned all the time. So, and our assumption is going to be at this point that we're going to be comparing those, that we're truly comparing, so to speak, an ox that had gored 3 times and was warned to every animal when it comes to Shane and Regal.
Have one of the machlokas with Avram and Lot, the sheep,
the neighbors, yes. That was also that's a big problem. It's a bichlal. You have to watch that. That's why in general shepherds were not such a highly regarded people because they were considered to be. It's very hard to be a shepherd and not steal, because the animals eat every place. It's very difficult. It's a hard job to be a tzaddik. We had our leaders were tzaddikim at being shepherds, but the normal shepherd, no, people didn't like shepherds too much. Shepherds were usually, whether they liked it or not, they tended to steal.
You had the range wars in the United
Yeah,
States.
range wars. It's a big problem, right?
They killed each other,
There
literally.
always
Yeah.
fights between the farmers and the cattlemen.
Yes, the cattlemen and the sheepmen,
Yeah.
and right, the cattlemen fought the sheepmen, and everybody fought the railroad. And the railroad fought everybody. Guess who won? The railroad.
So what would the Ronson have assigned an occupation to the Bnei Yaakov that was not looked upon?
No, it would at that time. I don't think that was true. They were tzaddikim. It was the other way. They were later on. That's what happened. It's a big, but it's a hard job. That's why, for example, by Moshe Rabbeinu, remember, he chases the little sheep into he's out in the wilderness, and the sheep runs away. Why is he in the wilderness? Because he was so careful not to steal. So he didn't graze his father-in-law's sheep near the settled area because he didn't want to steal. That's exactly the point.
Yeah.
But it's true that our leaders were chosen for the way that they herded sheep. Moshe was chosen for the way he tended sheep. David HaMelech was chosen for the way that he tended sheep also. He used to bring out the old ones, the babies and the older ones, and then only in the end he brought out the young bucks, could eat the stubble. And all them. Why is that? Because I'll tell you quickly, because we're not late. Today we're early. I'll tell you why. Because it's a machlokas. At one point, Moshe goes in front of the people to install Yeshua as the new leader. And Rashi says, he quotes Chazal. Let's say what he says to the people in front of everybody. He says to Yeshua, he says, these people are sarvanim and tarchanim. These people are stubborn and troublemakers. Here, you want to take over the position here. They're stubborn and they're troublemakers. He says in front of everybody. Ramban says here that happened, but not publicly. That's not that's how you install a leader. You're gonna tell me these people are troublemakers and bums. You said and stubborn and troublemakers. He said it. Ramban says he said it privately, but never said it in front of people. But I believe Rashi's the Pashto. We know that Rashi's the Pashto, and the Pashto is, I believe, yes. You know why? Because the facts are, for better or for worse, people are people, and everybody knows they got problems. And if they don't hear that the leader knows that they're troublemakers and that they're going to misbehave, and if he doesn't take it on that condition, Almanas came, he can't be the leader. If you think oh no, it's gonna be a hayride. Oh, you're gonna love it. The people every day, it's gonna be a party. They're gonna have you can't be the leader. It's not gonna happen. People make trouble and make fetches, all kinds of. He says, and the people had to hear it. They had to hear that Yeshua heard that they're gonna misbehave, and he said, "I'll count it." If they then otherwise you can't lead them. That's what I think of Pshat. That's what I think is Rashi.
Well, Sefer Devarim, he says right out to the people,
Yeah.
even if somebody before Hajino said, I know, if the right now, we'll go with the
Right.
derech. He ripped them apart. The whole Sefer,
Exactly.
the first
Exactly. But here he said he has to know.
Moshe
The people have to know.
Yeah.
So the answer is what we say over here. So that's the answer. They were chosen. So the fact that they could live here. If you were Moshe, imagine you were Moshe. We don't because we don't think we're reading children's stories. Here, imagine chasing in the wilderness. There's no water. Here, when he found the sheep, what was the sheep doing? Drinking. He was drinking. He was thirsty. He said, so he runs after. If I chased after a sheep for 3 days, to tell you the truth, don't spread the word. If I after 3 days, I'm running in the desert. I say, I give it a kick. I say, what are you lousy little thing? You may run after you for 3 days. What is you rotten thing? What did Moshe do? He says, oh, you were thirsty. And then he says, you must be tired. And he picks up the sheep and he holds them. And Hashem says, Chayecha. Hashem says, if that's how you treat the animal sheep, he says, that's how you're gonna that's how you shepherd sheep, and you're gonna shepherd my flock. What's the answer here? He says, most people can't relate to anybody that's not like them. That's what happens. People relate to people like them. If you're not like me, I can't relate to you. No, go help people. If you're in the business, anything you can ever imagine and everything you didn't imagine, people do. I'm telling you. Believe me, I want to get started. Everything you can imagine and things that you'll never imagine in your life, you're going to get phone calls. I'm telling you. People, you won't believe. I can't, you won't believe it. You won't believe what people do. And therefore, if you can only relate to yourself, you can't do it. So our leaders, they related to something that's not them. And they're able to put themselves in the place of the sheep and the old sheep and the middle sheep. The babies have the babies and the old sheep, but their teeth are not good. Babies don't have the teeth. The old ones have the teeth are not good anymore. Yeah, and each one to precisely to know you can't do the job. You can't. It's impossible. Anyway, that's the point. Okay, so now sheep. The Kodesh Ladir, if a person puts sheep into the corral, what's a corral? You make these tricks were known forever. They had to make do with what they had. Why do you corral all your animals? Because each place you corral them, they go to the bathroom. So you make a corral. You hold the sheep, the animals, they go to the bathroom. Then you move them to another place, and then you corral them here. You corral them here. You keep corralling the places, so you utilize all of the resources that you have. You understand? So when you put the sheep into the corral, a corral you have some things up with a door, and that's a corral. So according to Ladir, a person puts the sheep into the corral. The no b'fan of karoi, and he properly made it with door. We did this before. What's the door? Karoi means a reasonable door. Means that it'll stand up to a normal wind, ruch mitzuya. The yotza bezika, and the animal got out. Okay, and the animal went out and got out because the door was opened up. Okay, but he watched properly. Okay, Potter, he's exempt. Okay, what the animal went out and it ate in somebody else's property or trampled in somebody else's property, he's exempt. He did his job. He's exempt. Low no b'fana karoi, but if he didn't put up lock it so it could stand up even to a normal wind, the yotzav ezika and it went out and did damage. It ate in somebody's field. It trampled higher. Then he has to pay. Why? Because he was posher. Remember we learned. Remember we learned earlier in the beginning of the sechta. Any place that I was obligated to watch, then I am either I'm the one who did the damage, like I did the damage myself, or any place where I had to watch. Remember Rashi said the other way, I have to complete, I have to fix the damage. Either way. So if you didn't watch, you have to pay. How about the other way? Let's say you locked it properly, the nifit sobalayla, but then what happened was it fell down at night. It had nothing to do with it. It fell down at night. Oshu partzur listim, or thieves knocked it down. The animal went out. Potter, everybody's exempt. The owner is exempt. What's he supposed to do? It had other things down. He didn't do anything wrong. And even the thief is exempt. Why? Because he did the damage that he did is by groma. It's indirect because he took the fence down and the animal got out. He didn't. It's completely completely indirect. Hotziu listim. Let's say the other way though. No, the thieves didn't just knock it down. The thieves pulled the animal out. Now you know that a thief, even though he's a thief, but when he does an action of thievery, he actually makes a kinyan, he actually acquires it for the laws of theft. He becomes, in certain respect, the owner as a thief, and therefore what? List of chayavim. Now, since they took it out by hand, so now in this respect, it's become part. It's actually their animal, and they are obligated. Now, the other way, back to our thing. He put up a fence properly. But he left the animal in the hot sun, and the animal is distraught. Or alternatively, he just gave the animal over to anyone who's incompetent, a deaf mute, to an imbecile, or to a minor. Okay, and then the animal went out and did damage. Now he's obligated. Why? Because he didn't watch it properly. He did an improper thing. Masur Leroa. Let's say he gave the animal to the shepherd. Nichnas Aroa Tachtav. Then the shepherd he enters in his place and is obligated. What? You wouldn't have thought. Not only is the shepherd obligated to watch the sheep, that the sheep shouldn't become damaged, but he also has to watch the sheep like the owner that he shouldn't do damage. So he goes in place. Nafla Lagina. Now, let's say the animal was on the roof, and it's very common by them, and it fell into somebody's garden. Okay, it fell into somebody's garden. Okay, and now it was really an accident. Okay, it was an accident. Venenes. Okay, venenes. But it got benefit from the produce. There are 22 ways. It got benefit because it ate what was there, or it fell onto produce. It cushioned its fall, so it didn't get damaged. So even though since it fell down by accident, the owner is not obligated to pay the damages. But remember, even if you don't pay damages, if you get benefit from somebody, you always have to pay the money. Michelle Lemus Mashanenet, she has to pay what benefit she got. Like we're going to learn later. We're going to learn either for eating, she has to pay the benefit she got. The owner has to pay the benefit the animal got from eating. We'll discuss in a minute how we do that. How we do that. Okay, or you'll pay the benefit from the cushion. What would you have paid for somebody to put a cushion down? So the fruit down to cushion the animal's fall. You're the kadarka, but if the animal went down normally, it's not an accident. The zika and then did damage. It ate, etc., etc. Then the owner has to pay what was damaged. Now, how do you pay what the damage was? Shaman. Now remember, we learned this earlier, but this is a chiddush of the Torah. It says ubir b'stei acher. It consumed in another field. So you have to evaluate the damage on the basis of another field and not on the basis of the produce alone. we don't look at it. We don't look at it on the road, but you have to look at it in terms of the field. There's a chiddush of the Torah also here, like I said, also even by human damage. Like I told you, if a guy, God forbid, takes a person's arm, we don't charge him what a person would charge for an arm. That would be, I don't know, what would a billion, millions, yeah.
Armed robber.
Yeah, armed robbery here. But fortunate. No, we have to. We're lenient, and they only evaluate what the person would sell for with an arm, as opposed to what a person would sell for without an arm, which is a fraction of what a person would charge for an arm. The same, yeah.
If the animal fell into produce and cushioned its stall,
Yeah.
isn't that a case of Zenenev Zemro Chaser?
No, so apparently, I don't. First of all, we have to discuss. First of all, it could be, and we could discuss it, but it doesn't have to be. It could be, and we have to discuss it. Could be, okay, could be. So yes, it could be. I'm not making fun. I'm saying, yeah, I don't live, not one way or another. Okay, now, a good point. Now, so we said, case of how do you pay what you damage? The same way I told you, don't pay for the arm. You pay for the guy. You pay for the difference between a guy with an arm, and a guy without an arm. Okay, same thing over here. Shami, we don't evaluate what if he ate a row. We don't evaluate what it would cost to buy the row. Okay, for the fruit. Shami base saw we evaluate. A base saw is the amount of property that you need a saw of seed. It's 50 amas by 50 amas. Shami base saw says that we take the value of a base saw, that plot of land in a field, 50 by 50. How much it was worth when it had all the rows, and how much it's worth now less one row, which is a much smaller amount for the row. And the difference, that's what the guy pays. Shimon Omer, he says no. He says Ochla Perisky. He says no. He says you're making a mistake. When do you do that? When are we so lenient that you can evaluate the row together with the field and not by itself? Ochla Peris Gemuri, and he says He says you don't do it. If the fruit's ripe, you pay for the ripe fruits. You do not have the lenient evaluation. If the fruit was already ripe, if the produce was already ripe and ready to be picked, you pay the full price. It's one saw, two saw. When are we lenient? Only by uncompleted produce. Then you do it on the field, but otherwise not. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanon, after we learned in the Mishnah that if you locked it properly, I'm gonna have to use some word, and because we're gonna use two words. Rowe means fitting, and yet we're gonna call it shmir pechusa, a lesser watching. No, the minimal watching is called a lesser watching. It's fitting. It's still called a watching. And then Shmir Ula is better than minimal. Mi'ula, excellent, is better than minimal. And minimal is the same thing as Roy is fitting. And less than that is not watching at all. So Pechusa, lesser watching and fitting watching are the same. Mi'ula is better, the best watching or the excellent watching. So it's excellent, normal, which is lesser, and not watched. Those are the three categories. So the Gemara says, Tana Rabban, we learn Ezu Koroi, Ezu Koroi. You see that we had to talk about what's a fitting watching and what's not fitting watching. If the door can stand up to a normal wind, it's normal circumstances. Koroi, that's fitting watching. He did his job. But if it can't stand up to a normal watching, Koroi, that's not fitting watching. That's not really watching. Now, remember, I told you that right now our assumption is that Shane and Regel, since they always eat or always trample, they have the same rule as a shore, as an ox. That's a muad. So at the moment, that's that way we're going to look at it. That they really are comparable. So whatever you held by a warned ox, whatever level of watching was necessary, really theoretically that should be the level you should need for a sheep or any animal for Shane and Regel. That's the assumption of the Gemara now. So Amar Rav Mani Bar Patish. You told me what? That the lesser watching is good enough. That's what our Mishnah said. Whose opinion is that? Who held by a warned ox that you didn't have to have an excellent watching? Who was that? Because we're comparing the two. It's not. Remember, we learned this earlier. We learned this. If you tie an animal with a rope around its neck, okay, but no, but for which is a normal watching. Or you put a door that can stand up to a normal wind. And went and did damage. The first opinion is whether it's warned or not warned. Warned or not warned. That's why we mayor, because where mayor holds you have to have an excellent watching for every ox, warned or not warned. Remember we learned it from the Sukkim earlier. Furthermore, so that's not going to work over here. That's not going to work over here. It can't be a mayor. A mayor holds you have to have an excellent watching for every animal. And so we're saying, you only need a regular watching. Rabbi Yehuda says no. You remember he had an enigmatic position Tom Chayev, he says what? He holds that an unworn ox needs excellent watching, and if you didn't do an excellent, then you're obligated. Muad Potter, ironically, he yelled that a warned ox needs only a regular watching. Okay, why? Then because it says by a warned ox, it says he won't watch it. Okay, if you do an adequate watching, that's watching. Ironically, he held that a warned ox needs less watching than an unwarned ox, like we learned earlier. Lezer says, listen, a warned ox, there is no watching. Ain't lo shmir socket. There's no watching. Kill it. The Torah is saying you cannot watch it. Okay, so here, so we have to say what? So who is it? So who is it? Okay, I feel okay. It has to be what? So it has to be Rabbi Meir. No, it has to be Rabbi Yehuda. It has to be Rabbi Yehuda. Who else? That what? That it has to be Rabbi Yehuda who holds that a muad it gets along with regular watching. Okay, it has to be right. Right. Shmir B'chus is good enough. Now, let's see further. Okay, but the truth is, you know what? I don't have to say it. You don't have to say it to Rita. I could really say it to Rameir. I could say Rameir. Rameir holds you the excellent watching for muad. The answer is that our original comparison of a shor muad to every animal when it comes to eating and trampling is not correct. It's not true. They're not the same. Okay, I feel Rameir. Even though Rameir holds that the shor he needs excellent watching, shani shem duregel, eating and trampling, even though we're calling them muad, they're still different. Why? The Torah miyata b'shmirasim. The Torah went out of its way to lessen the obligation of watching them. Why? The Amar of Elazar, because Elazar said the Amar of Masisa, some people we learned in a brisa. There's 4 cases where the Torah lessened one's obligation to watch them. They are bor, a pit, the aish, fire, shane, eating, animal eating, regel, and trampling. Bor, where do we see the Torah was lenient in how much you have to watch a pit? For a person will open a pit, uncover it, or dig a pit, okay, but he won't cover it. So you notice that whether he dug it or whether he uncovered it, all he has to do is what? Is cover it. He saw, but if he covered it, even though he didn't fill it in, Potter, he's exempt. Now the best way to watch it is really what? Fill it in. Here, eradicate the hole. You see, the Torah said what? Even though it doesn't, Torah by a bore, the Torah does demand an excellent watching. Okay, see, what do I see by a fire? You don't have to have an excellent watching. You see, it said the guy lit a fire in his field, and it went out to somebody else's field. And even though look what's so strange, even though the fire went out by itself, okay, but then when it comes to the payment, what word did it use? The person who lit the fire has to pay. He didn't light it, the fire went out. But you see what? The person, we call him the person who lit the fire, as if he lit the other guy's field. The fire went out by itself. He says, what? The one who lit the fire has to pay. So what? Okay, so it has to be what? He has to be negligent to the degree it's as if he lit it by himself. And therefore what? So he has to be very negligent and not a little bit negligent. So also you don't have to have an excellent watching. Shane, okay, when it comes to eating, where do we see also the Torah was lenient? And that word is funny because an animal is feminine. So a beer is masculine. So it's really saying what? His animal went out and then he, the owner, ate in the other field. Okay? The other gator beer, it has to be like the owner himself, as if he ate it himself. He has to be very so negligent as if he himself brought the damage about. So he has to be that negligent, but less negligence, no problem. Regel, how do we know by trampling? Deceive the shilach, it says what he sent out his animal. He's not obligated. The other game shilach has to be like he sent it out. Again, he has to be quite negligent, and less than that, he's not obligated. But Tanya, okay, we learned the shilach regel. We learned at the beginning of the sending out. That's talking about your animal trampling. The cheno omer, it says the shalche regel shavachamar, those who send out the foot of the ox and the donkey, who beer and eating shane, or consuming, pardon me, that is shane. So it says yavire agal atuma, like the tooth will consume until it's all gone. Okay, now Taima, okay, the avikain shilach beer. So the only reason the person's obligated is he has to do it like as if he was so active that he took it out and he consumed. But if he didn't do it that much, but he did what even a lesser watching, as long as it's sun watching, low, he's not obligated. So we see, therefore, so original assumption was incorrect. The Torah was that even though we call both of them muad, but the Torah went out of its way to be lenient on the sheni regal, even though they're muad, to be lenient, and you don't need an excellent watching. Aye. Amarava Masnisin Namidaiki says the truth is, from our Mishnah, you can see that our Mishnah really was Rabbi Meir. That by sheni regal, by sheni regal, even though we held what that by a shar muad that you have to have what an excellent watching. Okay, you could see that our Mishnah could still be a Meir, and that when it comes to trampling and eating, you don't need to have an excellent watching. Why? The Katani, because it taught sown. It taught sown. Why did it switch to what, to sheep? Okay, up until now, what are we were talking about oxen all the time. All of a sudden, sheep show up. Interesting, and Akadish showed there. All of a sudden, sheep are showing up here. Sheep. It's not late. In Eretz Yisrael, I don't know if you know, the missionaries target Israel like you can't believe. And I lived there most of my life. The missionaries spend millions and millions of dollars. So millions. They do disgusting and terrible things. They're sneaky. They're sneaky. They find every Jewish kid who's depressed. Every Jewish kid who's depressed and wandering the streets, they find them and they spend money on them. They do sneaky, terrible things. They're terrible, terrible. I've called them and yelled at them a lot of times. Not once, a lot. They're terrible, disgusting people. They're sneaky. They're sneaky. So you wake up in the morning and there's a beautiful pamphlet in your mailbox. Oh, with beautiful Hebrew words and psukim and quotations from the Torah. It's wonderful. But if you just leaf through it by about page 6, you know what you see? A sheep. You know what that is? That's missionaries. You know, if you know the guy, that's the sheep. You know, you know, it's the guy over there. Anyway, lahavdil. What's going on over here? We were with cows all this time. We were oxen. All of a sudden, what's the sheep showing up over here? Why'd they go to sheep? He says, lahavdil. We've been talking about oxen. What's sheep showing up over here? He says, Nisni Shor. He says, why don't you also? Why'd you change the paradigm from oxen to sheep? He says, my shon all of a sudden, now you want to talk about sheep? He says, Lav mishum datar miyata bishmir rasim. The answer was because we wanted to show you that sheep have a different rule than what? Than oxen. And that's the point over here. Lav mishum dekan. Karen look okay because Karen looks Siva. Well, there's no horn over here. Okay, Shane Verregel, we're talking about what by sheep. We're talking about we're talking over here probably of the damage. We're not talking about the damage of horn of goring, even though theoretically it could happen by these animals, but it usually doesn't. We talked about Shane Verregel, which is the common damage by flocks. And teaching us the Shane Verregel, the Muadinu, so to speak, even though these that they're forewarned and still what that they only need a regular or not excellent watching. Shema, we know indeed. We can hear it in our Mishnahs even, Rabbi Meir. We'll call that a daf. Everyone have a wonderful day. I had terrible. They spend millions. If you don't take it lightly. They spend millions. They got loads of donors. For this, they got donors.
We have it.
For this, they got donors. They got millions. They spend millions. Nebuch, they spend millions. They spend millions in the 50s. In the 50s, when the Teimanim the whole Eretz Yisrael, there was no money in the 50s. In the 50s, they came. They found every poor family, and they fed them and brought them disgusting. Listen, I'll tell you a true story. Feinstein, the Salvador Moshe Feinstein. He's a yeshiva. I'm telling you, you think you're going to be a teacher, you have a yeshiva, you're a fundraiser. You sign up for one job, and you get a different job. But Moshe Feinstein and God door has to go and raise. That's what happens. If you get a yeshiva, you have a yeshiva, you're a fundraiser. There's nothing to talk about. That's what happens. So he goes all out to fundraising, and he gets the money, Baruch Hashem, and he finally ends up. He's in Canada. I don't know which city. He's in Canada, and that's it. He's about to go home. Baruch Hashem, he got money. He's going to bring money back to yeshiva, pay the bills. And who meets him in Canada? The Pe'ilim. Who are the Pe'ilim? They were the activists in Eretz Yisrael. These were the Jews, God bless them, who went to fight the missionaries who had money when everybody was so poor, and their mom was buying off these poor families, to makarv them to Avodah Zarah, So they came to Ray Feinstein and they said that these Jews are in danger. And he took all the money that he raised for the yeshiva and he gave it to them. I know it's a true story. He said that takes precedent. Imagine Ray Feinstein coming home to New York. How'd it go? Really good. You raised a lot of money, Baruch Hashem, but I gave it away. They were terrible.
1964, they had the World's Fair in New York. in Queens,
Yeah.
and there was one kosher restaurant in the education building. And the missionaries would stand outside because that's where all the Jews are. So one of them handed me a Bible and said, "Proofs of Jesus from the Old Testament." First thing it says is, "And thou shalt not break a bone." So I said, "That's a little sister." So I said, "That's not talking about him, it's talking about the Paschal Lamb." So I said, "He was our Paschal Lamb, he was our sin sacrifice." So I said to him, "Listen, the sin sacrifice was a goat. You have to decide, it's your God, goat or a sheep." And he just walked away.
Yeah, I'm not ecumenical Unitarian.
No. Well, we get, in the mail again, and the front it says,